Great. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you, Pocket Gamer and Chris, for the introduction. Really excited to be here. It's been a great week, or a couple days so far. And like Chris said, I'm going to be speaking to you guys about what it means to be a modern publisher. So I think a good place to begin, at least for me on my personal journey through this crazy world, is when I joined Scopely, which was 2012. And the reason I'm choosing this date is because the publishing landscape looked significantly different. If I can figure out how to work this thing. There we go. Okay. In 2012. A lot of players up there that were in the game that are no longer in the game. And slowly but surely, you started to see some drop-off here. I'm having a little bit of an issue with this. There we go. Okay. So yeah, slowly but surely we started to see a drop-off, and folks started to retreat from publishing. And I think this was in large part because of the way that publishing was perceived at the time. Taking a step back to understand, yeah, I'm having an issue with this pointer here. It's not really responding. There we go. Okay. So taking a step back to what publishing meant across entertainment mediums, you had the analog incumbents, and yes, some of these players are now doing some very interesting things on the digital side, but to illustrate the point, you had players like New York Times, Warner Brothers, Activision, thinking about things in a traditional consumer box product type of way, putting stuff on shelves to sell to people. Along came companies like BuzzFeed, Netflix. Very bold statement I'm making by putting Scopely up there, but we would be honored to be considered in that company. And we started thinking about publishing a little bit different because of the tools that we had at our disposal. So no longer was it about us telling the user what they wanted and serving it to them. It was really about looking at what the data told us and trying to understand what to make based on what we were seeing from the results of users interacting with the content. No longer was it intermediaries distributing the product to an end user, a movie theater or a store selling a product, but actually we were starting to create direct-to-consumer relationships with our customers, listening to them, talking to them, oftentimes in real time, and very much customizing that message to the specific customer. It was no longer about physical inventory. You didn't need trucks to get movie reels or video game cartridges across the country to get to the location where people would buy them. And it was more about having unlimited shelf space, being able to put out as many games as you wanted. Whether or not that was a good idea, that's up for debate, but being able to spread the games out there in the market without limitation. And R&D was really inefficient. When you were trying to test something, when you were thinking about what to make, it cost a lot of money to put something out there to get it in the hands of consumers. You couldn't do what you can do today with dummy ads and figuring out things via market research that happens in real time on the same device that people are actually consuming this content. And so as this started to change, there were a few key insights that I think really led to where we are as a modern publisher, as Scopely. And this is our point of view. I think it's probably similar to some of the other publishers who are doing great work today, and there are a handful of publishers that we have a tremendous amount of respect for out there, despite the fact that there are less than there were in 2012. And we made a few observations and really embraced these things, that the future of interactive entertainment is data-driven. We really love this idea. It's actually exciting to us that this is the intersection of art meets science, and I think that the folks who are really succeeding in today's market embrace this, and they embrace it from the very beginning when they're conceptualizing the type of games they want to be making. Not only that, but interactive entertainment is actually a better business than linear entertainment. Because you can operate in real time, because you can have a conversation, because you can understand what the user wants, and then adjust and give it to them. And then this was really the key insight that made Scopely what Scopely is today. Publishing interactive entertainment gets better with scale, whereas creating this entertainment does not. So a big reason why Scopely exists is Zynga. And why do I say that? The co-founders at Scopely, Walter and Ankur and Eitan and Eric, they saw what was happening in the market in social games. And what Zynga was doing from an analytics, from a BI, from a customer service perspective was unstoppable. Their marketing, their user acquisition, these guys, you couldn't compete with them. And while a lot of their early games had some really great magic, you know, the creativity and sort of a lot of that inspiration that were getting millions and millions of people to keep playing these games sort of wore off when the same people were making similar types of games and you had the same DNA. And this is how we're set up at Scopely. You know, we've brought in a lot of great talent. We've pulled from some of the best companies out there, including the big red dog that I just mentioned, and guys who've worked on all sorts of incredible IP. But the reason we pulled these in is to identify the best talent outside of our four walls, to bring them to market, to work with them to create amazing user experiences. So you probably know us from a couple games made up here in Vancouver, The Walking Dead Road Survival. We did over 10 million downloads in the first 90 days. It's been a consistent top 40 grosser on iOS, top 15 right now on Google Play, doing quite well. Our other title, our family of titles that we're really proud of is on the casual side, Dice with Buddies and Yahtzee with Buddies. This is a 4-year-old product, believe it or not, which we've been able to optimize over time and bring into the top grossing charts with Yahtzee releasing last year. But, you know, really, I think it's important to understand what people were thinking about in 2012 when it came to publishing. And at least from my perspective, when I was getting on the phone with developers when I joined Scopely, there were 3 main things. How much are you going to spend on marketing? Are you going to get me my Apple feature? And can you pay me? It was really the conversation. And it was kind of surprising to me because I joined Scopely a little bit ignorantly, I'd say. You know, I was a huge gamer. I'd been playing games my whole life, but my background was really traditional entertainment, films and TV. And the vision and the idea of the separation between the distributors, the marketers, the infrastructure, so to speak, and the creators was just natural in Hollywood and music and literature and pretty much every form of entertainment. But really what I discovered the developers were asking themselves when I was picking up the phone and calling them was, do I really need you? Didn't I just go to this platform because I want to create content and put it out and push it out to consumers myself with the click of a button? Isn't that what iTunes Connect is for? Isn't that what the App Store is for? Why do I need a publisher now that I don't need shelf space? That's a really good question. You know, I mean, why do you need a publisher? And in 2012, it wasn't completely obvious because if you were making a great game and you were putting it out there, you did not have to spend a ton of money to get it to the top of the charts. You did not have to spend a ton of money to keep it up there and to keep people playing it. And, you know, the infrastructure surrounding things like CRM, community management, customer service, product marketing, all the testing that you do on the UA side, analytics, business intelligence, it just wasn't there at the level of sophistication that we see today. So, what does publishing look like in 2016, and how do we think about publishing at Scopely? It is a 360-degree, full-on wrapper around everything that goes into making an incredibly fun, engaging game. It starts with product management and extends through live operations. And when we think about product management at Scopely, it's more than just data. It's more than just looking at numbers and trying to pull levers. It's really kind of the combination between design and user experience, as well as data and analytics. Product marketing, user acquisition, and PR. I just mentioned that it was a fairly cheap to put out a game in 2012. Well, we all know with $5, $10, $15, $35 CPIs, it is no longer cheap. And not only that, you need to optimize over time. You need to figure out the right way to brand your game. You need to figure out the right way to change the creative so that you get different kinds of people interested and different player profiles coming into the game. Analytics and player insights. There are plenty of off-the-shelf analytics solutions that are quite good. But you know, if you really want to be competing at the highest levels, most teams that I know that are in the top grossing charts are actually using some custom analytics that they've built themselves or through a partner. Production, localization, and QA. Now that production values have gone up and up and up, now that games are bigger than ever, now that productions cost more than ever, it's that much more important to be efficient. It's that much more important to make sure that you're shipping something that works on every device. And it's that much more important that you're shipping something that everybody who you're giving it to can understand. Ad monetization and yield optimization. Now, this used to be something that only happened in casual games because why would a mid-core game need ads? You know, there are people who are spending money in it. They're not casual users. They don't want to see ads. They're in this game for a different reason. Well, that's no longer the case, as I'm sure you've heard a couple of speakers say this week, talking about things like incentivized video and ad approaches in different types of games. And then business development, licensing, and distribution. It's not just about getting your game out in the iTunes store anymore. We're in the East meets West. It's about getting your game out in China. It's about getting your game out in different markets. It's about understanding what is the right IP to even begin with, and then how do you custom cater this IP to the different markets in different ways. And really, it's a tiered kind of stack of the way we think about things. You know, at the top are the people, the expertise, the designers, the product managers, the marketers. The operations is sort of the philosophy that we think about when we think about running our business. What does it mean? What do we do when we go to work every day? And then the underlying technology beneath that, the CRM, the analytics, the platform, the data, all that stuff. And taking a closer, more granular look at the technology in terms of some of the things that we've built out, our big data analytics platform, our player warehouse, our performance prediction models, our non-payer monetization, CRM. I mean, these are things that are not trivial. It's pretty inside baseball stuff to really understand exactly who your consumer is, what is the likelihood that they're going to churn, and what are the comps in market that are telling you different things that you should be aware of. Understanding who a player is. Hey, that guy played dice. Now he's in The Walking Dead. We know who he is because he's in our player warehouse. What are the things he likes? What are the things he doesn't? Some pretty in-depth technology, and it requires a team of people not only to build it, but to maintain it, to support it, and to run it. So flash forward to 2016. The purpose of those last few slides in some ways was to make your head spin a little bit, because it's kind of been wild to see from my perspective too, joining Scopely when we were a 20-person publisher in 2012, moving up to a 200-person publisher in 2016, putting out only a handful of games a year. And the fact is, the reason why we're doing that is because we believe that in order to compete at this level, if you want to win the war, you have to show up with an army. And you do need to go in, generally speaking, with a publisher if you're trying to achieve those top levels of top grossing success. So why is it like this? You know, I mean, why do we need all this stuff? Like, what happened? Well, so when I was growing up, I grew up in the 8-bit Nintendo era. I got one for my 6th birthday, played games every single day since then. And one of my earliest memories about video games was actually going to the store, the rental store, the Blockbuster Video. We would go almost every Friday afternoon. My parents, my dad or my mom would take me and my brother, and we'd walk in, and we would spend an hour, half an hour, 45 minutes debating which box we were going to take home, because that was the box that we were going to spend the next 48 hours with. That was the game. Regardless of whether it was good or not, that was the game we were playing, because while it seemed like there were a lot of games, there really weren't. You know, there were really a handful of games that you had access to, and it was however many games you could fit on that shelf. Well, now, 2016, the reality is no one needs another game. If you're going to make a strategy game, why is someone stopping their Game of War addiction or their Clash of Clans addiction? Or why should they stop playing Clash Royale after they've invested 6 months and $500 into it? You need to give them a reason. And if you're going to give them a reason, you need to be as granular as you possibly can when it comes to understanding the data, when it comes to understanding player patterns, behavior, what their wants, needs, desires are, why they play these games in the first place. So it's kind of sounding like it's tough, it's hard, you know, there's a lot goes into this, like how do I get a publisher? There's less of them, there's all this stuff they do. It's expensive to build my own company to even be able to compete in this way. So I'd like to kind of talk about what we look for and what are the things that are exciting to us, how we evaluated developers in 2012, how that's changed. We're going to be talking about this actually on the panel that's coming up, so if this is an interesting topic, I encourage you to stick around. But it's changed quite a bit. And in 2012, there were a few key things we looked at. We looked at development costs. How much is it going to cost? How quickly can we get this into market? When we looked at what is the tech and the engine, that was something that was actually really important. Something that we said, we're not going to do a game that's not in Unity because of X, Y, and Z, and it needs to be this way. Previous development experience, you know, platform genre agnostic. Have they shipped a game? Oh, okay, those guys have made Skee-Ball. Maybe they can make a strategy game. That was the way we thought about things. It was a little bit more rudimentary in terms of, you know, the ability to ship a game, maintain a game, and how we thought about live operations. And the themes were cost, execution, and efficiency. Now, fast forward, that should say 2016, evaluating developers in 2016. We're looking more for a well-rounded 5-tool developer. And what does that mean to us? I'm a big baseball fan. Every team that's looking for their next draft pick is always looking for that mythical 5-tool player who's really well-rounded and can kind of do everything well. Very difficult to find, but we try to balance this and make sure that there are some key strengths in certain areas. And so power, we think about that like UX product design. If you're a power hitter, if you're a home run hitter, you're a killer designer, well, you're probably going to be all right. Your average, your speed might be able to be low because you're going to be able to create amazing experiences. Tech and engineering, extremely important. And it's not just, do you have an engine? It's what are your capabilities? It's can you scale something? If we put something out there and we go spend $5 million against this in marketing in the first week and you've got 10 million users in there, is this thing going to stand up or is it going to fall over? Because we don't want that risk profile entering into an investment that's like that. Speed, proven engine, genre expertise. Do you have an engine? iUgo did. That's a big part of why we partnered with them on The Walking Dead. And if not, do you have some kind of expertise that gives you a key insight into the genre as to why you guys are going to be able to win the category? Production process and team size. Efficiency is still important, but it's more about, are the processes transparent, and do they have the right team in place to ship features as quickly as we need to be able to scale a game, stand it up, and then react to what's happening in real time. And then very, very importantly, a willingness to collaborate and the leadership at the studio. This is something that can solve a lot of the other issues, because there is a lot that a publisher like a Scopely brings to the table when they partner with a developer. We're bringing guys who've seen a game that has grossed $100 million and have seen mechanics that have driven ARPDAUs north of $1 time and time again. And so we want a partner who, not that they don't have a creative point of view, we're not trying to look for a work-for-hire shop that's just going to do what we say, but we are looking for someone who wants to collaborate, who wants to learn, who recognizes that there is value to working with other people who share a different point of view. And so in 2016, no longer is important. Development costs, speed to market, specific tech requirements, and the underlying themes are now UX, product focus, and operational alignment. Because what we've seen is that when there isn't alignment between two teams, when there isn't that desire to collaborate, that common understanding of what it means to ship a successful game and how you get there, it gets really messy really, really quickly. And that's something that we weren't really paying as much attention to in the early days when I started talking to developers as we are today. So a lot has changed in the past couple of years, but I really do think it's a super exciting time to be an independent developer. There's a ton of opportunity, and the fact is I think there are more and more publishers emerging who are really starting to wrap their heads around what it means to ship, optimize, and really grow a game over time. So thank you guys. I want to open it up to questions, and I encourage you to ask me anything.